Blumenfeld. She's a senior fellow at Johns Hopkins Center for Strategic Studies and a former senior policy advisor on the U.S. State Department's Israeli-Palestinian negotiating team. Great to have you as always, Laura. More reports of children being killed by Israeli airstrikes. It comes, of course, after IDF strikes killed 9 children from the same family. That was just a couple of days ago. How do you see currently the way that Israel is carrying out this offensive and what is clearly becoming a very high cost to civilians in Gaza?
Yeah, Israel, there is real isolation and it's going beyond rhetoric. We're seeing that from allies of Israel, their strongest allies. France is hosting a meeting next month with Saudi Arabia talking about recognizing a Palestinian state. The UK, of course, is renegotiating or rethinking trade deals with Israel. President Trump is largely silent, but he is responsive to optics, and for the first time, he has said we need to end the war. I think there's only one voice that counts, and it really is the United States president. He's either arming Israel to strike or strong-arming them to stop. And I do think he's ambivalent, he's conflicted, because we have to remember that he sat in the White House next to Prime Minister Netanyahu and said 2 things that I'm sure are ringing in the Prime Minister's ears. The first one was that Israel was stupid to ever give up Gaza, that it turned into a terrorist enclave when Prime Minister Sharon gave it up in 2005. And so Netanyahu feels justified to fight to kind of hold on to it if he's trying to impress President Trump. And the second thing is that, Trump is still talking about getting Gaza, having Gaza. And when journalists said to him, well, what about boots on the ground? Are you going to send American soldiers to die? What President Trump said very simply was, we'll have it, we'll get it. And I've just got to wonder whether Prime Minister Netanyahu thinks that the way he can finally kind of curry favor with this administration, right? He's not rich, he doesn't have oil, but he can be as ruthless as necessary. And if that means flattening Gaza as he's threatening, maybe that's the way he can deliver on a platter the very thing that Trump was hinting at in the Oval Office.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because, you mentioned this increasing isolation among the international community, pressure from all kinds of countries. We also saw this meeting in Spain over the weekend with European and Arab nations. Today, on Jerusalem Day, I believe, we heard from the far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, essentially saying, we're no longer afraid of the word occupation, referring to the Gaza Strip. So I guess, the question is, do you think there are members of Netanyahu's cabinet and government who, may not feel or care about that international isolation?
Well, I think that, like I said, there's only one word that matters, and that's President Trump. Today, Israel did an about-face when it comes to humanitarian aid. Despite pushback from the far-right members of the cabinet, humanitarian aid was resumed after an 80-day blockade. Food, water, medicine. That was just something that the world couldn't tolerate, including President Trump. And Netanyahu very quickly was willing to push back. The other thing that I think is really important for folks to remember is that a majority of Israelis want to end the war. They want their hostages back, the people who are kidnapped, on October 7th, 2023, and they want to move forward with the rest of the Middle East. They feel like they're being sidelined. They watched Trump's trip to the Gulf, and there was definitely a sense of this kind of Abraham Accords being left out of that tent. So Israelis are ready to move on. If Hamas were thinking strategically, it would be so simple. Let the hostages go. And, there's a chance that they can both live and win to fight another day, perhaps. If the hostages go, there'll be no more pretext for Israel to continue the fight in Gaza.
Yeah, and we did get those conflicting reports today about potential ceasefire negotiations, whether or not one side or the other kind of stamped those down. But for now, they do appear like they've stalled. Laura Blumenfeld, we appreciate your insights as always. Thank you.
Thank you.